Well, chances are, if you're like me and grew up gaming for the last 20 to 30 years now, you probably know the name E3, as it is the Super Bowl of gaming announcements, if you will, the gamers' Christmas, the once-a-year event where all of the major corporations would come together to do their big reveals and essentially compete with each other. Who steals the show? Will it be Microsoft, Sony, or Nintendo this year? And while we've had no participation from Sony in many years, Microsoft and Nintendo are still typically staples of the event, and of course it's had a very rocky history through the pandemic years where it was canceled multiple times altogether or just held digitally as a one-off. And this year, while it was set to be fully returning in a big way, hosted by a new organization, ReedPop, who is well known for hosting Comic-Con amongst many other gaming events, it is now confirmed that the cancellation of E3 2023 is officially here, following numerous announcements from different developers that they would not be showing up. And we have to go over and break down all of the implications of what this means when it comes to new game announcements in the summertime of 2023 with Nintendo and other companies alike right now. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below. Hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. Now, as I mentioned, guys, today we are discussing the very recent news that broke that does not only suggest but actually confirm, because we heard it from the ESA themselves, that E3 2023 is officially canceled. And this for me is definitely news where I was essentially expecting it. The writing was on the wall. Not only did we get confirmation earlier in the month that Nintendo would not be a part of the E3 convention, we also found out that Microsoft would be holding their own showcase right next to E3, but also wouldn't be a part of it. So when you have no presence from Sony, Microsoft, or Nintendo, that's already going to be somewhat of a lackluster showcase. But you did have big companies like Ubisoft, potentially the likes of EA, Tencent, Sega, and many others that you could have maybe still wrote home about this show and walked away with some really exciting announcements and an in-person event back in full force. And I was hopeful that the momentum would potentially carry into next year, and maybe we would see a big return from at least Nintendo and Microsoft, and maybe even one day Sony, if the event was held correctly. And of course, there are many conflicting opinions online on whether or not you even need a showcase like E3 anymore, because clearly times have changed and these developers can simply take to the internet to put their content directly in the eyes of consumers by just tweeting out an announcement, very similar to how we saw Nintendo just recently hold their 10-minute Zelda Tears of the Kingdom gameplay reveal, where they took to Twitter a day before the footage went live, and next thing we are all glued to the screens watching it as soon as it gets uploaded, because they announced it ahead of time. And the direct-to-consumer format is definitely dominating, and it is less and less important for these traditional showcases to take place in terms of a in-person convention. However, I do still think there is a fun excitement and energy to be had with these shows, but the cost and return on investment is likely one of the biggest issues, with probably the reason we are not seeing many developers and publishers participate this year, which ultimately created a domino effect where the event has been fully officially canceled. And we need to get on the same page with all the details by reading through this upcoming article, and also have a broader conversation of what, if anything, this could signal for Nintendo's summertime showcase plans. Because while we did already know that they weren't going to be a part of E3, we have to talk about the infamous Summertime Direct and the likelihood on whether or not that will continue, assuming that we may be talking about E3 being dead and gone for good. And to get on the same page with those details, let's read through IGN's detailed typed up article together. E3 has been canceled. Almost a year after announcing its return, the Entertainment Software Association announced today to its members that this year's Electronic Entertainment Expo, E3, has been canceled. IGN can confirm. Two sources have confirmed to IGN that the organization announced the cancellation via an email sent out to its members today. The email said that while E3 remains a beloved event and brand, that the 2023 vision simply did not garner the sustained interest necessary to execute it in a way that would showcase the size, strength, and impact of our industry. The ESA concludes the email by reiterating its commitment to advocacy work. It does not mention undertaking the show again in future years. Following IGN's report, the ESA issued a following public statement from Kyle Marston-Kish, if I'm saying that right, Global VP of Gaming, ReedPop. This was a difficult decision because all of the effort we and our partners put towards making this event happen, but we had to do what's right for the industry and what's right for E3. We appreciate and understand that interested companies wouldn't have playable demos ready, and resourcing challenges made being at E3 this summer an obstacle that they couldn't overcome. For those who did commit to E3 2023, we're sorry we can't put on the showcase that you deserve and that you've come to expect from ReedPop's event experiences. The press release adds that ReedPop and the ESA will continue to work together on future E3 events. The event was supposed to be held from June 13th to June 16th at the Los Angeles Convention Center and would have been the first in-person E3 event since 2019. The event was canceled in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and while a digital version was held in 2021, the event was canceled again in 2022 in effort to focus on a revitalized showcase that would set a new standard for the hybrid industry events. E3's return for this year was announced last June alongside the confirmation that E3 2022 had been canceled. The news comes as multiple big names in the industry from Xbox, Nintendo, PlayStation, and more recently Ubisoft announced that it would not be attending E3 in any capacity, with most opting to host its own digital showcases. So I'll tell you this, it doesn't look good for E3 and it doesn't look good for the future of E3, because while there was that one brief comment from the VP saying that they're looking to work on future E3 events, there's no clear-cut commitment and there's really no sign that they can get any of the major companies on board, and we may continue to see this domino effect where if they announce it and the cost is too high and you don't have Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony, or any of the big names, and then Sega and Tencent and EA and Activision, whether or not they're part of Microsoft at that point, we'll see. But you may not have major publishers decide to spend dollars on this event if none of the big guys are there, and we may very well see intentions for E3 to come back, but it might not ever be able to be held correctly and at the scale that it once was, which you might not have any nostalgia for if you didn't grow up watching the events, and you might realize that we really don't need E3 anymore. But I am definitely somebody who appreciated the event. I really liked having a week or two that was just dedicated to gaming announcements, and you knew that that was the week to potentially take off work, watch the announcements live one after the other, schedule your day around when the different major companies would be holding their showcases, and now we have a more sporadic trickle of announcements throughout the summertime, although Jeff Keighley and Summer Games Fest are definitely trying to capitalize on some of E3's problems, and that was ultimately Jeff's goal. Was he claimed that he saw years back that E3 was not evolving with the times and not realizing how, as digital showcases become the big focus, that there was going to be a broad issue like this with the ESA and how they were handling these style of events. And sure enough, Summer Game Fest will be back this year, and they are even claiming companies like Ubisoft with their showcase are a part of their event. So whether or not Jeff even charges any money for that to be a part of it, or if he just likes to throw his logo of Summer Games Fest on as many events as possible, it remains to be seen. But regardless, I do think that we might be in a landscape now where Summer Games Fest is the bigger showcase for the summertime, and it will be the only one this year outside of just independently held presentations from Microsoft, from many other developers, and we don't know what to expect with Nintendo. And that's where I want to kind of pivot this conversation, because the thing about Nintendo and E3 is that they go way back, and consistently over the years we have been able to expect a Nintendo E3 direct presentation, and Nintendo really spearheaded the direct format to begin with and led the way with digital only presentations. But as years have gone on, and especially over the pandemic, we of course have seen a very sporadic participation from Nintendo in the summertime at all, with them skipping up any kind of direct presentation or showcase. And while E3 was canceled last year, and you could have said that maybe that was the reason, we really don't know what to expect this year, because their exact statements were E3 didn't fit into their marketing plans. And we have heard all of the different gaming journalists and multiple sources claim that from what they are hearing, there may be indeed a lighter back half of 2023, or at least a gap after Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is released, and we might not be able to expect a ton of major first-party Nintendo published titles. Yes, we have Pikmin 4, but that is more of a fan service game, and I don't know if we have many big blockbuster titles past that, at least until we get past something like the September Nintendo Direct, where we will likely see the October, November, and even December titles revealed for 2023. And that does leave me at a point where I don't necessarily know that we can pencil in the summertime Nintendo Direct with the same confidence that we once did in years past. It seemed pretty reliable to expect a February Direct, a summertime Direct in June, and then a September time Direct. And now it does seem like February and September are staple months, but it does not look like we can safely expect them to always hold a summertime showcase, at least in their first party capacity. It very well may be similar, depending on what Nintendo has up their sleeves with new games. It could be similar to what we saw last year, which was a mini direct partner showcase towards the end of June, and that was essentially Nintendo showing up for the summertime. Granted, we had some game specific directs as well, but we may or may not see them put together a traditional summertime show this year, and that definitely is disheartening for me. But it is not confirmed yet, and clearly we don't know what Nintendo's broader plans and broader release schedule past Zelda Tears of the Kingdom really is for 2023. So I personally will be sad to see E3 go. It's sad that it's not taking place this year, and I certainly don't necessarily expect the event to come back in any major capacity in the future. There's certainly a chance that the ESA gets together with ReedPop and forms a game plan to get everybody back on board, but if the big gaming industry names are not there, it will never be what it once was. And I think we've kind of slowly seen the slow death play out over the past few years, and 2023 might just be the nail in the coffin for E3. But I really want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, whether or not you're a fan of E3. Are you happy to actually see it go if you didn't have nostalgia for it? Do you think it was one of those archaic events that just isn't needed anymore? Or are you like me and you do have some nostalgia for the event and you liked the scheduling around all of the summertime announcements being close to each other? And what do you think this means for the broader conversation of Nintendo and their direct presentations during the summertime? Are you expecting to get a full-blown first-party mainline Nintendo Direct this summer, or do you think we might see a repeat of last year where we get something like a mini partner showcase but not a full-on Nintendo Direct? And what does that mean to you? Do you think that 2 directs being February and September are enough, or would you prefer to always have that summertime showcase still be a staple event for Nintendo? So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, which is on screen right now. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.